Okay, let's go over dividing decimals. So, we're going to have two instances when dividing decimals. Okay, the first one is going to be when the decimal is inside the box, okay, or when it's the dividend, dividend, or when the decimal is outside the box, or the divisor, okay? So you have to apply two different methods to each one of these. Okay, let's go over the first one. So when you divide and the decimal is actually inside of the box, then all you do is you just transfer this decimal up top here, and then you divide as if they were, as if they were normal numbers. So then you would say, how many 2's go into 10? Well, normally that would be 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 10 minus 10 is 0, and we would bring down the 4. Then you would ask yourselves, how many 2's go into 4? And easy. That would be 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And that gives you a grand total of 0. So your answer in this case would be 5.2. Okay, what happens if the decimal is actually outside of the box and not inside? Okay, so if you have the decimal outside of the box, or if the decimal in this case is the divisor, then what you would have to do is you would have to move this decimal point to the right until you have until this number becomes a whole number. Okay, so let me explain what I'm saying. So when the divisor is a decimal, then you move this decimal point one time so that this number becomes 25. Okay, but when you do this, you must also do the same thing to the number that is inside the box. So remember the past problems where we had where we said if we don't have any decimal, then it is assumed that the decimal is the imaginary decimal is here after the whole number in the ones place. Okay, so if we move this decimal one space to the right, then we would have to move this decimal also one space to the right. Okay, remember what happens when we move a decimal and there's nothing, there's no number there to move the decimal under? Well, when that happens, we fill this space with a 0. So this 5 becomes a 50. Okay? So, and then after that, we would just divide normally. So we would ask ourselves, how many 25's go into 50? And, you know, if we remember money, you know, there are 2 quarters in 50 cents. So then how many 25's go into 50? Well, 2. 2 times 25 is 50. 50 minus 50 is 0. And that's your answer. The rules on dividing decimals. So, if the decimal is the dividend or the number inside the box, if this number is a decimal, then you would divide normally, but you would keep the decimal place. So notice how we kept the decimal place on both ends, right? So we divided 2, how many 2's go into 10, and we put the 5 there, and then we just transferred this decimal up to the top, and then we'd ask ourselves how many 2's go into 4, which was 2, and then that was the answer. If the decimal is the divisor, or the number outside the box, then we would move the decimal until the number outside this one becomes a whole number. Okay, so like we did here, we moved the decimal from left to write one place. Okay, so because we moved it one time, then we would move the imaginary decimal here also one time. Okay, so then this would become 25 into 50. Okay, and naturally the answer to this would be 2. And that's the answer. You don't have to do anything after that. Okay, so if this would be 12.55 into 5, then we would move it 1, 2, and then we would move this one 1, 2, 2 places 2. Then we would have 1255 into 500, because you would move, you would move this 2 places, and then you would fill the gaps with 2 zeros. And then you would get your answer. What would happen if they were both decimal numbers? Well, you would just follow the rules from this one. Okay, from number 2. So if they were both decimal numbers, you would just move this decimal until this number became a whole number. So this would turn to 12, and then you would do the same thing with this decimal over here. So this would turn to 24. And then you would ask yourselves, how many 12s go into 24? And we would know that is 2. And that's the answer.